Chapter 34. Kai. Dice clatter across the table. Laughter echoes after my roll, followed by large hands that scoop away my shillings.
"Better luck next time, Highness,"
the burly sailor bellows. This heartfelt sympathy is followed by another from across the table.
"Damn, Azzer, you're making this too easy."
I lean back in my chair, shaking my head at the four men. It seems my mind is elsewhere this round.
"Just like the 5 before."
This shout from the burly man continually stealing my money has the rest of them laughing. All right. I stand on my feet and sway with the rocking ship. I think I've lost enough shillings for one night.
"No, don't go yet."
The man's gold tooth winks at me between his words.
"I'm saving up to buy me my own barrel of rum." "Hey!"
They all but yell this in unison as I head up the stairs for the main deck.
"Evening, gentlemen,"
I yell over my shoulder, making them laugh harder with my choice of words. Lifting open the grate, I climb onto the deck and into the night. I take a deep breath of muggy air and head for the poorly patched railing. The sea is eerily still beneath me, the waves a mere rolling reflection of the moon hanging above. It's been unbearably hot the past few days, though the unbearable part is likely due to my lack of her. I run a hand through my ruffled hair, still angered by our argument days ago. The hours have dragged on without her to brighten them, leaving me with nothing to do but gamble away my shillings and drink enough rum to convince myself it tastes good. I've seen glimpses of her. Shared looks she refuses to hold. I can sense her presence on the other side of my wall. Feel the empty space in my bed that once occupied her warmth. It's absurd, really. The fight. The truth. Because that is the root of it all. Truth. Something I am not strong enough to hear. I lean over the rail to peer into the sparkling water below. It is selfish of me to be angry with her, I know. But it is easier that way. As though I'm looking for a reason to lose her that isn't my brother. Soft footsteps suddenly echo behind me. I don't need to turn to know who they belong to. She must have wanted me to hear her coming. Hi. I spin slowly towards the uncharacteristically timid sound. I figured you were too stubborn to come talk to me first. Peyton crosses her arms. And I figured you were smart enough to beg for my forgiveness first. But she lifts her hands into the air between us. Here we are. I sigh. I've missed you, Gray. It's only been a few days of not speaking, she retorts, moonlight dancing on the ends of her silver hair. No, I shake my head, watching her hesitantly step closer. It was the beginning of the rest of our lives. Kai, please don't. I was wrong to be angry with you about the truth. I say quickly. It was something I needed to be reminded of anyway. I step back then, a physical representation of the boundary I'm attempting to set. This hurts her. I can see it in the way her face crumples against the lantern light, as though she wasn't the one to remind me of our separate fates. She's spinning that ring on her thumb, and I hate that I'm the cause of such discomfort. I need you to know that. Hair rises on the back of my neck. I stiffen, lifting a hand that cuts off her words. I can only imagine the annoyed look on her face because my eyes are already on the sea beyond her. My head tilts slightly, cocking towards that strange pool in the pit of my stomach. Kai? Peyton's voice sounds muffled against my back as I strain to focus on this intoxicating feeling. I've felt power my whole life, learned the way it moved beneath my skin and ignited in my veins. Even the inkling of it is a slight hum in my blood, a tickle at my fingertips. But that is not this. This is no elite. Not entirely. Kai? What is it? She's standing beside me now, reaching a tentative hand towards the body I've abandoned in pursuit of this feeling within my very soul. Eyes fluttering shut, I reach towards that foreign power, tug at the lethal connection in the pit of my stomach, and it comes racing towards me. Everyone, get down! The warning has only just escaped my lips when the ship lurches violently. I lunge for Payton, managing to throw an arm across her waist while the others grapple for the railing. My hand hooks around the torn wood as the hull bucks beneath us. Sailors topple across the deck, yelling as they slide towards the opposite dipping rail. The ship rolls until my feet have nearly lifted from the floor. I strain to hold us there, grunting as my fingers slip on the slick rail. Shaken from her initial shock, Payton begins tearing at the wood with her nails, desperate to hold her weight as we dangle above death. I'm panting, arms burning while screams and shouts ring through the night air. A series of splashes have me wincing for the crewmen who have found themselves overboard. Tori's booming voice cuts through the chaos, shouting orders to whoever still clings to the deck. The ship rocks once again, this time falling back towards its intended position atop the waves. With a colossal crash, the starboard side slams down into the waves. Water careens over the rails, pelting us with salt and biting coldness. Our knees buckle with the force and send the slippery deck flying towards us. Payton coughs, pushing a mop of wet hair from her eyes. Every bit of lantern light is swallowed by the wave, leaving only the moon to illuminate this chaos. She looks over at me, soaked to the bone, just as I am. "What?" she pants. "What's that?" The sailors all around us seem to be shouting the same question, all drenched and dazed. But when my eyes lift and land on the captain's, I don't need to see the terror within his gaze. I know it mirrors my own. He can hear it. I can feel it. And we may not live long enough to say we had. My voice is an odd murmur. It's found us. Wood splinters beside my head. I throw myself over Payton, shielding her from the showering of jagged pieces. A looming darkness falls over us as the ship bucks with a sudden impact. Ears ringing, I barely hear Payton scream beneath me, barely register my own when I look up towards the source of this devastation. Teeth. Hundreds of them, glinting in the moonlight, rows upon rows of jagged death. The long, piercing fangs are currently skewering from the wooden railing we were just hanging from. I gawk at the creature, only scrambling away from its maw when Payton pulls at my arm. Its scaly green skin is worn and scarred, dripping with the sea. A noise emanates from deep in the monster's throat as it tries to pull those milky teeth from grainy wood. The low growl is accompanied by an odd clicking sound that sends chills down my spine. "What the hell?" Payton whispers, her terror a foreign sound. I push her back, covering her body with my own. "Stay behind me!" My shout is nearly lost in the dozens of others as men spill onto the upper deck, ready to hurl their power at the monster. I watch in horror as a man runs towards the railing, spear in hand. With a grunt, he throws it at the creature's head, only for it to glance off the hard skin like a pathetic toothpick. This only seems to anger the monster. It hisses, vibrating the deck as a circlet of fleshy skin and scales lifts around its head. Rippling like a gruesome petal, shredded and slimy, it encircles the creature's pointed face. From this angle, I can see part of its long body that disappears into the sea. It resembles an enormous sort of eel, with that snake-like form and fleshy fin along its spine. And yet, Everything about this animal is unnatural. It is nearly the width of 2 masts, and we have yet to find out the length of this beast. The sheer size and strength alone are a testament to the plague's alteration. This creature could easily be a century old. A blazer steps forward from the terrified throng to hurl a ball of fire at the monster's face. But it never lands. With a roar that rattles the ship, the beast rips away from the railing. Once again, we are showered with bits of wood before a wave of water follows. "It's gone," Peyton sputters, water dripping from her lashes. That formidable power lurches in the pit of my stomach. So like the elites, and yet not at all. No, I give her a shake of my head that dusts droplets of water at her feet. It's only just begun. Gusts are urging the wind to propel us across the water while tellies hold spears at the ready with their mines, uselessly armoring the ship. I turn to Peyton once again, grabbing her by the shoulders. "I need you in your room." "Are you coming with me?" she asked pointedly. "No, I'm staying out here and so will I," she insists. "I won't sit and wait to learn of your fate, Kai." I cup her face, urging her to understand. "Please, Pei, don't fight me." A screeching roar echoes all around us, drowning out every other sound. I'm suddenly being pushed to the ground, Peyton's body rolling over mine. We tumble across the deck, narrowly escaping the beast's slamming body. I hear the ominous sound of cracking wood before turning to see the damage. Its long body lies across the deck, the impact of its arch sending a spider web of cracks throughout the wood. The monster slides farther, exposing the alarming length of its body. Sailors jump out of the way, some lost to snapping teeth or a forceful shove of the scaled body. Elites hurl their power at it, though they seem to do little damage. Fire, telepathy, strength, and weapons do nothing in the wake of such might. I join in, despite the futility, throwing fire or attempting to pull the massive creature away with my mind. But for the first time, I'm witnessing elites rendered completely powerless. I am rendered completely powerless. Slithering across the deck, the beast breaks through the opposite railing to plunge back into the water. I tug Peyton against me, trying to keep my unsteady footing atop the violently rocking ship. "We can't fight it!" I yell at the dazed crewman. It's Tori I hear boom back. "All hands on deck! Every gust at the ready!" "We can't outrun it," Peyton pants. "We can't do anything." Another lurch of the ship and a massive spiny tail crashes over the deck. The wood beneath our feet cracks again and boards fall into the depths of the ship. Grabbing Peyton's hand, I run between the growing gaps while the swishing tail knocks men into the sea. Screams amplify when the monster's face appears on the other side of the ship, its body squeezing the vessel from beneath the sea's surface. On one end, teeth the length of my forearm await, snapping at what is left of the wooden railing, and on the other, a rampaging tail decorated in jagged fins. I shove Peyton against the pair of doors leading to our rooms at the same time one of those pointed spikes skewers a sailor. He screams, helplessly draped over the monster's tail to display the bloody barb lodged in his chest. Moonlight streams down on the gory scene, shiny against the pool of blood blooming beneath his torn clothing. Peyton's gasp is quickly covered by her shaky hands when the man is tossed into the ocean with a flick of the beast's tail. I don't waste another moment before ripping open the door beside her. "In! Please!" I shout the word into the night, willing her to hear the desperate plea within it. "I can't leave you!" she yells back, bending to pick up a forgotten spear. "I won't!" I'm about to argue further when the ground is suddenly stolen from beneath my feet. I hear Peyton scream when my body hits the deck. Then again when the bony tail connects with my spine. Pain explodes down my body. I'm suddenly being dragged across the wood, wrapped in slimy scales as my trailing body knocks sailors from their feet. Panting, I bite my tongue against the pain and slip a dagger from my boot. Grabbing hold of the massive tail hugging my leg, I plunge my blade into one of the beast's many scars. A screech tears from its throat before the tail lifts sharply, me in tow. I cling to it, fingers slipping on the slick scales. Then I'm yelling as it flings me into the open air. The starry sky blurs around me. I'm falling. Peyton screams my name. Falling. The churning sea suddenly appears beneath me. Falling. Falling. Desperately, I claw at a nearby telly's power, urging it into my palms and bending it to my mind's will. My stomach drops as I plummet towards the water. Throwing a strand of power towards one of the many ropes wrapped around the mast, I summon it to me. Obeying, it shoots towards my outstretched arm. Peyton's silver hair glints over the ship's railing, and that is the last I see before my body collides with the sea. Biting waters swallow me whole, numbing every limb with its frigid fangs. I tumble in the sea, mind sluggish. Salt bombards my senses, filling my mouth and nose. I kick furiously towards what I hope is the surface, though I can see nothing but darkness. My lungs burn. I fumble for the telly's power, reach for that rope. I'm dizzy, floating in a dark abyss. I strain for salvation, beg for life, beg to live with her. The rope plunges into the water. I grab hold of it, pulling my body upward with weak arms. Moonlight streams above, beckoning me. And when my head breaks through the surface, I'm spewing water. I cling to the wet rope, choking down air before lifting myself from the sea. A hysterical sigh of relief sounds from above me, and I look up through the sea-soaked hair to find Peyton leaning over the railing above, tears streaming down her cheeks. For her, I pull myself up that rope. My arms burn as do my lungs, but I push the pain aside. With raw palms, I set my feet against the ship's belly and scale it. By the time my arms hook over the railing, Peyton is practically pulling me over the edge. I let her, unable to muster the strength. My arms are draped over her shoulders, and she grunts beneath my weight. Pain shoots down my body with every tug, and when my boots hit the deck, I crumple to my knees. Peyton's body eases my fall, her arms wrapped tightly around me even after we hit the deck. We stare at each other for a long moment, content to ignore the beast raging behind us. I fear it would take much more than that to pull my gaze from her. With a choked sob, she presses her face into my neck, wiping tears across my skin. "I thought I lost you," she whispers, half laughing. I lift a numb hand to her soaking hair, running fingers I can't feel through it. With chattering teeth, I manage. "You can't get rid of me that easily, Gray." She cups my face, head shaking and smile trembling. "Damn fate and duty, and every other word meant to keep us apart." Tears slip from those blue eyes I would happily drown in. "I want to hide with you beneath the willow tree. You are the secret I will spend the rest of my life keeping." Her voice quivers beneath the weight of such a promise. Us. That alone is enough to have tears springing into my eyes. So I nod. Her face in my hands, my heart in hers. The countless screams echoing all around finally manage to capture our attention. Before either of us can spew a comforting lie, the ship is tipping again. We slide across the wood when the creature lifts its head further onto the deck. Serrated teeth lash out for the captain, and he narrowly avoids being swallowed whole. The boat is crumbling beneath the weight of this creature, straining to keep us all afloat. "We need to do something," Peyton murmurs. "Whatever you're thinking, don't," I order. She looks over at me then, and I remember just how much I missed her doing something as simple as acknowledging my existence. A small smile pulls at her lips. She's breathtaking in this light, as though her hair is a collection of the moon's rays. "You forget, Kai." Her fingers wrap tightly around the spear. "This is my trial." And then she's running.
Chapter 35. Peyton. The spear grows slick in my hand. My boots pound against the slippery deck, drowning out the sound of Kai's shout behind me. But I've watched this beast, learned its strengths, discovered its weakness, and this is not the first monster I have faced. So when it turns its luminous green eyes on me, bearing numerous rows of jagged teeth, I do not back down. I do not fail, or falter, or feel remorse. Every beast can be defeated. A creature, a trial, a king. I lift the heavy spear, cocking back my arm. Hot breath washes over me when the monster roars. Scaly skin flares around its face as it slithers closer, jaws snapping and teeth glinting. And I roar right back. The creature screeches louder, blowing my hair back and watering my eyes. Still, I stand before it. My chest heaves, heart hammers. And then I let the spear fly from my hand to meet the beast racing right for me. The monster's jaw widens, readying to sink those lethal fangs into my flesh. I look death in the eye as my spear sinks into it. The beast roars in pain, body bucking as blood pours from its once glowing iris. Screeching, it rattles the ship, shaking its head in an attempt to dislodge the piercing weapon. I stumble when the boat pitches, falling to my knees beneath the creature. Even when staring up into the embodiment of terror, I realize that this is still half the beast I've faced in the past. With one final roar of anguish, it arcs over the ship, over my crumpled body, and dives into the waves. I feel numb. I'm shaking as water sprays onto the deck, misting me with salty droplets. What remains of the crew stand stunned and bloody, all staring at the stirring sea where the creature disappeared. Kai is beside me in an instant, hands frigid atop my skin. His palms have slid around my neck to tangle numb fingers in my soaking hair. "What were you thinking?" he scolds, wide eyes searching mine. "Do I need to order you to your room next time?" I smile weakly. "That won't work when I'm queen." His lips are stained blue with cold, and yet they still twitch into a smile. "I can be very persuasive." "Well, I'll be damned. The Silver Savior does it again." I turn towards the captain's bellowing voice, his timing impeccable as ever. The limping crew gathers around him, some dripping with water, others blood. Tori holds an arm tightly to his injured chest and pushes the pain from his voice. "We've conquered the beast." A weak chant begins to rise from their collective throats, one I thought I would never hear again. "Silver Savior! Silver Savior! Silver Savior!" And I might have liked the sound of it. I've never been so relieved to set foot in Ilya, mostly because I'm looking forward to standing on something solid without the worry of it caving in beneath my feet. The ship is in ruin, and it has been for the last 2 days. Only by the strength of elites has it managed to reach Ilya's dock. With nearly half the crew lost to the sea and the beast dwelling within it, surviving this final stretch of the shallows was no simple task. Tellies worked in shifts to hold the most vital pieces of the ship together with their minds, while gusts blew a constant stream of air into the torn sails. Any excess weight was thrown overboard in an attempt to keep us afloat, leaving only bread and water to fill our stomachs. I lean against one of the only remaining chunks of railing, readying to spring out of the way if the boards beneath my feet give way, which they have done on several terrifying occasions. The hull groans in agony against the waves, as though begging for a swift sinking into the sea. Even the reckoning pleads for rest. I keep my gaze on the approaching dock, even as Kai comes to stand beside me. My voice is quiet. Do you think he's down there? Kai's gray gaze falls to the cluster of bodies awaiting us on the rickety moor, their faces blurry from this distance. Kit? I nod coolly, a shake of his head. I hope not. It's dangerous for him to be so exposed without me, but, his sigh is weary, he probably is. Thoughts spill from my mouth. I don't think he wants to be looked after. He should be grateful that someone cares enough to do so, Kai retorts stiffly. Not all of us had that luxury. I turn towards him, taking in the stony expression he now wears. Why did your father treat you two so differently? The question seems to surprise him. We had very different roles in life. I know, but I grapple for the right words and try again. He could have tutored Kit with the same callousness and hate that he trained you with. I mean, that is why your brother still cares for the king you hated. My eyes wander back to the approaching dock. You knew different versions of the same man. That is exactly why Kit never fully understood my disdain for father, Kai adds quietly. Why he lived to please him, while I lived to spite him. I smile slightly. Is that why you chose to spend so much time with me during the trials? To spite him? He seems to weigh his words carefully. Among many other reasons. I roll my eyes before he adds, although I always thought it was odd how boldly Kit befriended you. Father hated that I was associated with you, so for Kit to go against the king's wishes because of you, he shakes his head. It was unexpected. And now he's marrying the ordinary your father hated, I murmur. The same one that killed him. Kai takes a deep breath. Kit has always feared failing our father, but I think he also fears turning into the one I hated. Along with that letter Kit found, your fight with the king may have helped him see reason. He shrugs slightly. The king came after you out of hatred for what you are not. I glance over at him. And you believe me about that? After that battle at the bowl, the sight who witnessed your fight met with Kit and me privately. He looks over at me, grief in his gaze. We watched some of what happened. With the rain, we couldn't make out what was being said, and Kit couldn't bear to watch more than a minute of it. It is then that I see his grief is not for the king I killed, but for me and everything I endured by his hand. I blink, bewildered by this new information. Why didn't you tell me? You still killed the king, Kai answers evenly. Kit was still angry. So was the kingdom. At the end of the day, you were still a murderer. His eyes flick over me. And I wanted to hear your side of the story, because we still didn't know what really happened. I've now buried that vicious fight in the darkest depths of my mind. It sits among the bloody pool in which my father lies, right next to an image of two short curly bangs and the unseeing hazel eyes beneath. Unanswered questions swirl near that dark corner, drifting in and out of my thoughts. One belongs to the true identity of my parents, while another lies within that battle against the king. His motives and confessions equally confusing. Adina's presence in that final trial never fails to keep me up at night, mocking me in my dreams with ways I might have saved her. I swallow. He all but told me that the ordinary's disease was a lie, you know. There's a long pause, filled only with the sound of a slapping sea. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me? I counter. He says nothing. I had no proof but my own word, and that meant little after what I'd done, so I wanted you to discover the truth yourself. I glanced down at the sparkling ring on my finger. But I still am a murderer. And you're still far better than most. I shake my head. The stifled darkness within me says otherwise. I'm quiet until a soft question surprises my lips. So what do you fear? He looks over at me, subtly intrigued. You told me what Kit fears. Now I want to know what could possibly frighten Ilya's mighty enforcer. He chuckles darkly. I'm afraid of plenty. I raise a brow. Is it me you're scared of, Prince? His answer is quick and earnest. I'm scared of what could happen to you. What I could do to you. A muscle twitches in his jaw. I fear every swipe of my sword and every command from my mouth. It haunts me. Emotion clogs my throat, forcing me to swallow back a sudden wave of grief. My heart aches for this boy who never got to be one. It's not fair, I manage. This life you're forced to live. His eyes are a storm that sweeps over my face. It might just all be worth it if it means I can protect you. I shake my head at him as the ship lurches against the dock. Kai steps away at the reminder of who we are supposed to be to each other in this city. Glancing down at the dozens of awaiting faces, he asks, Why ask? About Kit and our father. I tip my head towards the dock, eyes pinned on a pair I know to be green. I guess I'm just trying to understand him better. Kit's blonde hair ruffles in the wind beneath the crown he wears, both glinting gold within the circle of Imperials surrounding their king. He looks oddly dulled, weary. His hands are folded over the fine green tunic he wears, and his eyes are on mine. For a moment, I feel as though I'm back in the bowl, meeting his gaze from afar as I stand within a game meant to prove myself. Pay? The sound of that nickname tears my eyes from the dock below, and I fix them on the enforcer beside me. I asked if you were ready to get the hell off this thing. My smile is tight. Yes, very. I follow him towards the wooden ramp, feeling it creak beneath my weight as I descend onto the dock. A wall of Imperials on the rocky shore separates the gawking Ilians from us, though I can feel the countless pairs of eyes raking over me. I bristle beneath the many gazes examining every inch of the girl they likely hope to never see again. The captain follows closely behind as we make our way over to the king. Kit smiles tightly at me, and it's a relief not to be scrutinized by him as well. Perhaps he is happy to see me return in one piece. Perhaps distance, and the likelihood of my imminent death, really does make the heart grow fonder. When the Imperials part to let us greet him, it's Tori who speaks first. Your Majesty! Kai! A flurry of limbs pushes through the throng of Imperials to bound towards the enforcer. Kai barely has enough time to spread his arms before Jax crashes into them. The boy clings to his brother, face buried in his shoulder. Jax sniffles. You're alive! Of course, Jay, Kai murmurs. I had to make it back home to you. My gaze is torn from their heartfelt reunion when Tori clears his throat. As I was saying, Your Majesty, it was an honor to sail under Ilya's colors once again. As you can see, he gestures to the battered boat behind. We encountered the beast that lurks within the shallows, but under my command, we now live to tell the tale. Kit nods his appreciation. Thank you, Captain Tori. Your bravery and service to our kingdom will be greatly rewarded. Kai clears his throat, arms still slung around Jax. I believe praise is due to the one who saved us from that beast. He lifts a hand towards me, and the gesture alone has every eye back on my disheveled figure. Heat stains my cheeks as I throw a warning glance Kai's way. This doesn't go unnoticed by the king. His tired eyes flick to me. Is that so? I take a breath and paste a warm grin on my face. I may have helped deliver the final blow, which wasn't very benevolent, I clear my throat, towards the creature. Kai dips his head, hiding a smile. Jax follows after his older brother, though far less discreetly with a choking cough. And Kit just stares at me. I can't read his look, and I typically pride myself on being able to do just that. Something like realization lights those green eyes. Or perhaps it's awe I see traced within the lines around his slight grin. But before I can decipher this expression, he's reaching a hand towards me. His knuckles brush mine before I let him interlace our fingers. This is for the people piled on that rocky shore, their prying gazes pinned on us. It seems you'll make a fine queen. The diamond on my finger grows heavy. It's as though you were born for this.
Chapter 36. Kai. Candlelight flickers down the length of the table, dousing every plate of food in a honey-like glow. The court sits snugly together to crowd around the feast. They talk idly, drowning in their finery while nibbling at their meal. Dragging a hand through my hair, I catch myself wishing this banquet was a ball, if only so I could slip away unnoticed within the swirling bodies. Instead, I sit stiffly to Kit's right, on display and at his disposal. He seems distracted, green eyes glazed over. I can't help but notice the slight gauntness of his face or rasping of his voice. He looks worn enough to warrant concern I can't currently give before his court. It seems the king did not rest, as he promised. Peyton shimmers across from me, picking politely at the food on her plate. For a moment, it feels as though we are seated back in time at that dinner before the purging trials, the one where I all but forced her to eat, the night she became my weakness. It's familiar, this scene. Simple. Except that it's not. And the king beside her is not my father. I've spent most of the evening watching Kit lean over, conversing quietly with his betrothed. Peyton smiles each time, the action tugging at that scar trailing down her throat. The elegant high neck of the dress she wears conceals the far more vicious one below, though my gaze continually falls to where I know the carving to be. This should not upset me. Their closeness with each other. They are engaged, after all. And speaking civilly is the tamest of actions. But I cannot seem to shake the gnawing envy in my gut, the jealousy that flares with every look shared and word exchanged. It's tiresome, this turmoil between love for my brother and love for his betrothed. You seem to have quite the appetite, just not for your food. With a heavy exhale, my eyes flick towards the source of that accusing tone. Beside me, Andy raises a brow, her nose ring flashing like the challenge in her eyes. I give her a tired look. Just spit it out, Andy. Using only the corner of her mouth, she fires back. Stop staring at what you can't have. I lift a piece of turkey to my mouth. I wasn't. You were. This voice belongs to the girl beside my cousin, her sheet of black hair swaying as she leans over the table to meet my stare. I don't know the crawler well, but I recognize her as Andy's friend from the ball. Though, with a quick glance beneath the table at their interlaced fingers, it seems safe to assume that their relationship has progressed further. See? Andy says smugly. Jasmine is my witness. Yes, I take a quick sip of champagne. Thank you for your astute observations. Andy tucks a strand of wine-red hair behind her ear. Kai, we talked about this. The shrill clinking of glass saves me from my cousin's wrath. I turn towards Kit, watching him stand at the head of the table. Scanning the room, he offers a small smile to his court. To Peyton Gray, your future queen, who successfully showed not only her bravery, but also her benevolence. He peers down the table distantly. Onward to her brutality, and long live the Silver Savior. When I lift my glass, the entire court is quick to follow. Long live the Silver Savior, they mutter in unison, most begrudgingly. Champagne bubbles against my tongue, warming my throat. My eyes are back on Peyton, though her own are pinned on something far down the lengthy table. I watch her gaze grow suddenly cold, lethal in a way I know firsthand she can be. Following that look, I scan the many faces decorating the throne room. And then my eyes stutter over her. The lilac hair falling over Blair's shoulders seems to oddly complement Linny's fiery red waves to the left. She sits comfortably in the seat beside her father, arms crossed and lips teasing the imperial. They look familiar, at ease with each other in a way that is likely making Peyton's head spin. I glance back across the table at her, watching as a sheet of icy anger creeps over her expression. She looks ready to avenge Adina, right here and now. Staring at this version of the Silver Savior, I fear for those who make her feel nothing. No remorse, no compassion, no worry for her stained soul. I raise a hand, hoping to stop her from doing something reckless when she stands suddenly. Her chair squeals against the marble floor and turns every head in her direction. Panic pushes me to the edge of my seat, awaiting her next move. But it is the false smile she plasters on her face that has me truly worried. Lifting a glass, she clears her throat in preparation for a toast. My fingers curl around the table's edge. Peyton's bright smile and cold gaze fall back on Blair. "To the ordinaries," she says cheerily, "and every unjust death. May they be avenged." Then she tips her head at Blair and lifts the glass to her lips. I glance down the table to find a lilac head of hair bowing right back. "To the ordinaries." I barely register the grumbled words that only half the court bother repeating, and it is only when Peyton takes her seat that I'm able to draw a deep breath. Uncurling my hand from the table, I wait for another wave of dull chatter to sweep over the room. When all eyes have fallen from Peyton and every mouth has moved on to another topic, I lean forward to murmur, "Well, that was suspiciously civil." Those blue eyes flick up to meet mine. I wouldn't call a threat civil. "For you," I amend plainly, "that is." Taking an interest in our hushed conversation, Kit chimes in with a discreet, "Once again, you know why I can't let you hurt her, Peyton." Gripping her fork, she rolls a piece of potato around her plate innocently. "And you know why I can't let her live." "Pay." Kit's gaze snaps to me at the familiarity in the word. Oh, shit. I carry on quickly before any of us can ponder what I've just said. "You can banish her when you're queen, if you like. But don't do anything rash before you wear that crown." "I don't need to hide behind a crown," she grits out. "Yes, you do," Kit murmurs, evenly. He brings a napkin to his mouth before coughing into it. I narrow my eyes at the hoarse sounds he cuts off quickly. "Ruling is all about hiding. The truth, motive, yourself, all of it. And the earlier you learn that, the easier it'll be for you in this castle." Peyton blinks at him, and I can't help but do the same. There is that piece of father he possesses. Swallowing, she places her palms firmly on the table. "It seems we could all blow off some steam." Then a sudden wicked tug of her lips. "Now, where is this wine cellar you always used to sneak off to?" Wine dribbles down the fingers I have tightly curled around the bottle's neck. Peyton's dress is an emerald pool atop the floor of the cellar. Flickering in a beam of candlelight, she tips her head against the cool stone wall and laughs loud enough to have my face splitting into a smile. Turning her bewildered gaze on me, she manages, "You did not." "He did," Kit blurts on my behalf. "I'm the one who broke his fall." Pei's mouth falls open as I attempt to defend myself. I was 5, all right? I could barely use my power, let alone know which ones even exist. So he climbs up onto the roof of the stables, Kit explains, a drunken smile turning his lips. Now, Kai-Pai here was convinced there was an elite who could fly. Payton snorts, quickly muffling the sound with a palm to the mouth. So he decides to jump from the roof and test the theory. Kit finishes with a laugh aimed at me. Why, Payton huffs towards me, would you think that was a good idea? I take a swig of wine before answering. In my defense, I could barely sense powers at that age, so I thought a flying elite might be possible.
The ravenous
Now,
waves.
that didn't mean there was one
But something
nearby,
happened.
but
I didn't hit the water.
barely sense powers at that age, so I thought a flying elite might be possible. Now, that didn't mean there was one nearby, but Kit slaps a hand against the stone floor, laughter morphing him into the boy I grew up with. Giddiness bubbles from Pei in a way I rarely get to witness, evidence of the wine loosening her tongue and lifting my spirits. I grin brightly and wonder just how much of it is due to being with my brother in the cellar again. So you crashed right into me, Kit declares, slapping a hand on my shoulder, and broke my leg. Well, your body broke one of my ribs, I counter. Besides, it was your idea to test my theory. That doesn't mean you should do it. I catch Payton's eye, aware of what it is she sees. We are so very free, laughing together like old times, and living like life never got in the way. Cheeks flushed and duties forgotten, we sit here as brothers who bear no titles. I like you two like this, she says softly. I bring the bottle to my lips, swallowing the dark wine. Like what? Drunk bastards off our asses? Kit laughs, clinking his flagon against mine. I'll drink to that. Payton shakes her head at us. No, well, maybe. But I just like the two of you being so carefree. Together. That has Kit looking suddenly serious, despite the ruffled hair and unbuttoned shirt. His gaze is earnest as it slides to mine. Just like old times. Just like old times, I echo. I miss you, brother. Kit sighs. I miss us. I'm right here, Kitty. My smile is soft. I haven't gone anywhere. Haven't you? The words are a startling snap. And then the king is laughing, smothering that accusatory tone with a smile. It's an odd flickering of emotions I doubt he intended to show us. But when he turns to Payton, bottle lifted sloppily into the air, his tired eyes are bright. To old times.
Chapter 37. Payton. I stare blankly at the dozens of fabric squares surrounding me atop the bed. These all look the same, I blurt in Ellie's direction. They are all white. She pulls the thick curtains together, blocking out the starry night beyond. Well, wedding dresses typically are. My mouth goes dry at the reminder of what one of these little squares will soon become. I shake my head, admitting defeat. Here, you just pick for me. Payton, Ellie's tone is surprisingly scolding, enough so to have me smiling with pride. This is your big day. I refuse to pick out the fabric of your wedding dress. I run a finger across the strip of samples, feeling each texture and pattern alongside the growing pit in my stomach. What if I don't even live to wear it, I mean, there is still the final trial and you'll be just fine, Ellie reassures gently. Why, because I have no problem being brutal? The words come out in a rush, like an uprooted fear typically does. She walks over to me, sitting on the edge of the bed only after I pat the quilt insistently. "There is no shame in that when justified," Ellie states. "It's not knowing an end to your brutality that's the problem." My eyes fall to the surrounding fabrics and each finger gliding over them. It feels wrong to touch something so blindingly pure with such bloody hands. My soul is stained with death and drenched in the regret of it. I never asked for this brutality, this darkness. It was asked of me. Clearing my constricting throat, I lift one of the squares into the lamplight. "How about this one?" Ellie leans in, her brown eyes tracing the faint pattern of twining vines etched in white thread. "It's beautiful." With a sad smile, she adds, "Adina would have loved it." She would have been jealous of the needlework, I agree with a light laugh. She always did hate doing that herself. Ellie watches me rub my thumb over the fabric a few dozen times before saying, "I'll let the seamstress know what you picked." I nod and numbly collect the fabric into a pile that Ellie tucks beneath her arm. "Tomorrow," she insists sweetly, "we will pick the flowers for the ceremony." Groaning, I tip my head back against the wall. If I pick now, will I be free of these decisions? "I suppose, but perfect," I say cheerily. "Roses." Ellie gives me a knowing look. "Is that just the first flower that came to mind?" "Maybe, but it seems fitting," I defend. "I admire the rose and its thorns. Even the prettiest things can bite," I defend. "I admire the rose and its thorns. Even the prettiest things can bite." Slowly, Ellie nods in agreement. "Then roses it is." I watch her bustle around the room once again, ensuring everything is in order for the night. "And they will certainly be easy to find. There is a private rose garden here on the grounds. Pretty pink ones, I believe." I bat her away when she tries to fluff the pillow behind my back. "Now," she straightens my boots beside the wardrobe, "I will see you in the morning, miss." I shake my head at her, even as a smile turns my lips. "Good night, Ellie." Tipping her head timidly, she offers a quiet, "Good night, Peyton." I watch her slip out the door before spreading my tired limbs out on the bed. Even after I did little more than waste away the day and take full advantage of sleeping on solid ground again, my eyelids still manage to droop. The dagger beneath my pillow is a comfort I clutch as I drift into sleep. I dream of Adina, as I always do. It is unpleasant, as it always is. The memory of her death resurfaces, swirling in and out of focus. A collage of every way in which I should have saved her plays behind my heavy eyelids. This nightmare is as torturous as everyone before, and I claw uselessly at my subconscious to free me from it. When I finally wake, it is to a sweaty brow and still darkened sky. Though, most alarmingly of all, is the plan I've determined. With my mind set and heart aching, I stand to my feet. I don't bother changing my large shirt and the thin pants beneath, though I quickly add Adina's torn vest to the ensemble. It is only right to visit our home with her hugging me closely. I step out into the shadowed hallway, looking like the resident of loot I once was, ready to rob an unsuspecting prince. It's fitting that I look like my old self, feel like the girl just trying to survive one sunrise at a time. Before I was the Silver Savior, the King Killer, the Queen-to-be, I was Peyton Gray. And she is going home. Soft light slips between the cracked cobblestones and crawls up the sooty walls. I breathe in the familiar stench of loot, nearly choking on the thick air. My senses are bombarded with the past and every memory that accompanies it. Dawn dares to creep over the horizon, painting the alley in a warm glow. While walking that graveled path from the bowl arena, I watch the night slowly flee from a rising sun. Those quiet hours were spent reliving the last time I stumbled down that road, bloody and broken. I pass the tree whose roots are decorated with that bundle of forget-me-nots, past the rocks and plants that were once stained with my blood. Everywhere I looked, my past stared back. It follows me still, here on Loot. I walk the same uneven cobblestones, dodge the same sneering Imperials, though I have never been so aware of the stubborn stench that ceaselessly wafts from the slums, not since staying in the castle. This realization stings slightly, a reminder of everything I no longer am. So much of myself lives within these streets, both the broken and the resilient. Adina lives here, on every warm breeze and colorful banner. Her name is written across the stones I step on, and I let her soft presence lead me back home. Merchants roll their carts right across my path, cutting me off with an unbothered yawn. Some start the day early in the hopes of claiming the most populated parts of loot. I scan the rickety stalls as I pass, finding the shortage of resources on display. Food was something I rarely paid for, let alone observed for long before shoving it into my mouth. Still, I saw it dwindle over the years, slowly enough that only the merchants knew for a long while. I was so busy surviving the streets of loot that I didn't know the extent of what was happening on them. Homeless huddle against crumbling buildings, no bed to sleep in or money to live with. A stack of sticky buns glisten on a merchant's cart, each one an outlandish 5 shillings. I realize now that I've actually never paid for one, and thus have no idea how expensive living has become. More than ever, I see Ilya for what it is: shambles. But that is going to change. I tug the fraying vest around me and quicken my pace. A small crowd spills out onto the alley, snatching what food they can afford. I weave between the bodies, and it feels like falling back into a familiar rhythm. The tranquility of blending in is a beauty that even the castle cannot offer me. I have not felt peace like this since I left Adina for the purging trials. The thought falls away when the fort comes into view. My heart stutters in reminder of its missing piece. I stumbled towards the alley's end, my eyes pinned on the barricade. A ray of sunlight brushes the worn rug and reaches for me to rejoin it. The fort looms closer, and my pulse quickens. Squinting through the shadows, I falter at the unfamiliarity before me. This is not the home I left. No, this fort now bears a colorful banner above it. The fabric squares have been sewn onto the yarn, painstaking proof that this was Adina's doing. I can't seem to breathe. Behind the barrier, our belongings have been rearranged. The usual pile of cloth is sorted neatly beside a new blanket and pillow I never got the chance to share with her. Even in the dull light, her vibrance exudes from the space, and I tremble in the presence of it. My knees hit the cobblestone, and I welcome the shock of pain. It's as if I'd expected her to be sitting there, waiting for me to return from a day of thieving, as if she could phase through our fort and come bounding towards me in search of a sticky bun. As if I didn't hold Adina's dying body in my lap, or see her blood gushing between my fingers with every glance at my incapable hands. A tear slips down my cheek, splattering the ground with a drop of my anguish. She was waiting for me to come home. Muffled footsteps sound behind me. But she never made it home. My stare remains distant, even as a deep voice rings out behind me. "This alley is taken. You'll have to find another place to..." I turn to let my teary gaze fall on this stranger. His brown eyes widen with a recognition I don't share. Strands of black hair fall around strong cheekbones, while the rest is pulled back with a loose strap. I blink at the lonely silver streak threading among such darkness, as though a lock of my own hair lives on his head. "It's you," he breathes. The scar slicing his lip curls with the words. I tense. "And who are you?" "After all this time, you're finally back to visit her," he mutters. Understanding dawns, so blindingly clear I have to blink. "You're the boy, the one Adina was seeing during the trials." He sinks to the cobblestone beside me, and in the morning light, I can just make out the dark splotches under his eyes. It's more than a lack of sleep around his gaze. It is a smattering of bruises. "She talked about you all the time." and then she died for simply knowing you. His words are a blunt knife to my chest. I know. I choke on the emotion in my throat. It should have been me, not her. Those brown eyes bore into mine. She was coming to see you, long before being summoned as your seamstress. We had it all planned. I don't understand. My back hits the grimy wall. How did you two? Hera was my cousin, the man says dully. When I discovered how close you and Adina were, I knew she would help me get into the castle, just to see you. Then Hera died in the first trial. I recall numbly at the memory of Braxton driving a blade through her invisible chest. And Dina in the last. I feel the moment my heart shatters, feel the shards of it pierce my lungs until I'm gasping for air. Dina. She was my A, but she was his Dina. I'm so sorry, I choke out. I'm so sorry about Hera, about... A tear slips down my cheek. About Dina? I couldn't save her. Why didn't I save her? Something shifts behind his dark stare. Perhaps it's pity, or another entirely demeaning emotion. But I watch it begin to smother that stony expression, erode the anger etched into the corners of his eyes. I doubt this is the monster he expected to face. Instead, a crumpled, crying girl is falling apart before him. This is all my fault! I turn my blurry gaze back to the fort, every bright color a mockery without her here. She redecorated for me, to surprise me when I got back from the trials. Tears are falling in front of this stranger, but I can't seem to find the will to care. But it was her who never made it back. And it's all my fault. This is all my fault. I couldn't save her either. The stranger sounds choked. It takes that thought for me to realize how much more he is than that. This man is one of the last pieces of Adina. I couldn't do anything but watch her die. You were there for her when I couldn't be, I say firmly. And that was enough. He shakes his head of dark hair at the cobblestones beneath us. I spent weeks being so angry with you, with the girl who killed her. Me too, I almost laugh, even as tears refuse to shy from my gaze. You can't blame me or Blair more than I already have. The silence that stretches between us only reminds me of Adina. She's not here to fill it. The man shifts, slipping from the shadow that once draped over him. I let my gaze fall from his face for the first time, as if the dull light has tempted me to investigate further. My stare scours over his broad shoulders, then the fabric hanging over them. The black vest is cut close to his body with pockets and pockets and... I know those pockets. My chin dips. I stare down at my own torn pockets. She made you a vest. The stranger now stares at the olive fabric wrapped around me, his dark eyes glassy. She did. All the air has left my lungs. Hurt curls around my body, choking until it's crushing my will, my hope, my heart. I grieve Adina all over again, because I was not the only one she lost. 2 great loves were left behind, and both hug what remains of her close to their heart. Tears fall, but I don't care that my vulnerability is on display. I kneel at the foot of our fort and cry for the girl who once brightened it. The stranger swipes at his cheek, but is quick to aim the sharp planes of his face at the ground. What is your name? I finally manage to whisper. It takes him a long moment to find an answer. Mac. I nod quickly, the action shaking tears from my eyelashes. Can I... My voice cracks. Can I give you a hug, Mac? He doesn't do it for me. I can tell by the tensing of his shoulders. No, he does it for his Dina, my A. We fall into each other, bodies shaking with grief and anger. In his embrace, I understand how someone so rigid and stoic could only be molded by the gentlest of hands. He was drawn in by Adina's warmth, forever imprinted on by her now broken sewing fingers. We hold each other, strangers connected by a mutual love. And when Mac finally pulls away, his eyes rimmed with red, a streak of sunshine falls heavily over our kneeling bodies. The beam of light coats us thoroughly enough to dry the tears staining my cheeks. The scar cutting through Mac's lip curves with a sad smile. "What?" I ask weakly. This man does not look like the type to smile easily, though that may have only been the case before Adina gave him a reason to. He shuts his eyes to bask in the warm light. "Just admiring the sun."